morning. We're talking about new beginnings today. New beginnings are exciting, aren't they? New school years, new teachers, new pastors. I remember when I was a kid getting ready for back to school before my first day of 7th grade in junior high. My mom took me shopping to a clothing chain that's not around anymore called Sycamore. Does anybody remember Sycamore? Yeah. Well, my mom took me shopping at Sycamore and I got all sorts of cute clothing that year. I was so excited. I thought I looked so cute going back to school. And my 7th grade pictures were even good. My bangs did the perfect poof. New beginnings are exciting because the possibilities are endless. In our Old Testament lesson today, King Solomon is on the edge of a new beginning. There has been no centralized place for the Jews to worship for a really long time. Solomon's father, King David, had wanted to build a temple to the Lord, but was told by God that it would end up being his son who would build the temple. It took Solomon 7 years to build the temple, and the descriptions of the temple are absolutely beautiful. It was carved of stone, ceilings made of cedar planks from the cedars of Lebanon. You can imagine the excitement and the pride that he felt. Not only had he completed this beautiful temple, but he had also finished something that was his father's dream of completing. Standing in front of this beautiful temple that had once only been a dream, it was finally a reality. We may not have a brand new building carved from stone with a ceiling of cedar and beautiful bronze adornments, but we got Pastor Michael, and that's pretty much just as awesome. So now the temple is finished. Solomon calls together the heads of all the tribes of Israel so that they can bless the temple. The presence of the Lord fills the temple like a cloud, so thick that the priests inside can't even see what they're doing, and they have to leave. And Solomon prays. And he acknowledges that although his temple is large, he knows that God can't be contained by any one structure. God's too big, too grand for just one building. He's too big for our building. Church is a place where we come to feel close to God, but he is not and he cannot be contained by a place created by humans. Church is not where God lives, but it is a place where human needs meet the grace and the willingness of God to respond. A place where his presence can be known, where his authority is proclaimed. Kind of like when Pastor Paul Arnold came a while back and said that pastors aren't the shepherd, they're like the sheepdog, pointing the crowd to the shepherd. Our church is kind of like the pointing place to God, so that people may learn, know, and experience him. He may not live inside the walls of this building, but people from our community can come, learn, and experience God within these walls. After Solomon acknowledges that God is too great to live in any one building, he has a few requests. He asks God for his presence and his protection. He then asks forgiveness for a variety of sins. Forgiveness of sins and trespasses, which are interpersonal disputes between the Israelites. Forgiveness of any sin that had caused them to be defeated in battle. Forgiveness of any sins that might have brought on drought. Forgiveness of sins that resulted in other disasters like locusts or famine, blight, plague, grasshoppers. Some of these wouldn't even cross our minds today. Can any of you honestly say that you've prayed for forgiveness that would ever cause grasshoppers? Probably not. But we could still ask for his presence and his protection, and we still ask for forgiveness from sin. Victories from battles we're facing, either internationally or wars that we're fighting on a more personal level, maybe against greed or lust. What I love next in this this prayer is that Solomon asked God to pay attention to every prayer and that he grant mercy to God-fearing foreigners. This is the Old Testament where the Israelites don't like foreigners. Usually we think of acceptance as being kind of a New Testament thing. But here is Solomon praying that this temple not only be a place that the Israelites who already knew God come to know him and have their prayers answered, but also for those who didn't belong, the foreigners, the people that they weren't supposed to be around. And he asked that their prayers be granted. This is a great reminder for us that we think of our church not as a place for us and for our own benefit, but for the benefit of those in the community who have needs and need to know about God. It's not about us and our needs. It's about us being links between the community and helping them to form a relationship with God. Some of you may know that over the past few years, our church has participated in something called the Fruitful Congregation Journey. The first run of that program, we had a team of about 12 people who met every month for about 8 months. And we discussed about 8 books that we read together. Then there came a point where we decided if we would move on to phase 2 or if we would repeat phase 1. We decided we would repeat phase 1 to make sure that we had enough people in the congregation who knew what was going on. It also happened to coincide with a switchover in the program from Fruitful Congregation Journey 1.0 to 2.0. And 2.0 only had 1 book. And those of you who participated in it might remember that Pastor Mark led a Sunday school class on that book called 10 Prescriptions for a Healthy Church. Pastor Michael, Kate, and Martha are working on a way for us to discuss some of those same topics in those books coming up in the fall. Some of these ideas help us to look at our church through different lenses so that we can focus on what our mission is and how we, as Portage First United Methodist Church, can uniquely fulfill our mission and create a new vision for our future. In the first round of Fruitful Congregation Journey and also some readings that I have from the classes I attend from the Methodist Course of Study, there's a lot of talk about editing out some of the good things that we do to do something great. The idea is that we could have 20 ministries that have a little impact, or we can have 1 or 2 ministries that we do very just excellent and make a huge impact. Right now we support a lot of causes, and that really is great. There's not really anyone that's a bad ministry. We support Royal Family Kids Camp, Family Promise, Scouting, Food Pantry, funeral dinners, Destiny Rescue, Operation Christmas Child, and there's a lot more that I don't have on this list. But you get the message. We are involved in a lot of missions, and we do a lot of good. But what if we stepped back and looked at our community and looked at what our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world? What if instead of duplicating programs that other churches are doing, we had people with a passion for those areas join their mission, and we focused our programming on just 1 or 2 missions that we are passionate about and we are uniquely equipped to deal with? Don't worry, we're not axing any programs. I just want to put that out there. We're not axing anything. This is just a conversation. So for example, scouting. We have the only Cub Scout and Boy Scout troops in Portage. What do you think it would look like if scouting became our main focus and the people of our congregation stepped in to help fill the voids in leadership in the packs? What if we helped them with their projects, helped them with camping, recruited more boys to be involved, helped those who didn't have a parent that was able to take them to Scouts and be kind of their surrogate leader? Because all children in Cub Scouts have to have a parent there with them or somebody that fulfills that does the activities with them. And like I said, please don't panic. We're not axing anything. This is just a conversation. A what if. You can see how focusing on just one or two missions could really unleash a lot of power in the community. For a class I just took, I had to read a book called Strategically Small Church. And while we may not think of ourselves as small, in this book, a small church was basically described as anybody under 500, which we are under 500. In the book, what the author pointed out was that church programming did not necessarily correlate with spiritual growth. What did correlate with spiritual growth was participation in small groups. And those who have participated in small groups are most likely not surprised by this statement, because you know what happens when you belong to one. A spirit of community and belonging develop. You suddenly start feeling like you're part of something. Another suggestion in the book was if somebody saw a need in the community and wanted to start a new ministry, the pastor asked the person to first find out if any other churches were addressing this problem. And if so, that they assist in the ministry of that church. If so, and by doing that, sending people out to volunteer with other organizations, it keeps our programming focused on what we are focused on, but it also encourages relationships with other people in the community. It also helps guard against pride. And while we should be proud of our church and the good that we do, we don't have to take credit for everything good that happens in the community. More than the reputation of our church is the importance of the reputation of God and the ministry of Christ. The book Strategically Small Church also suggested that when looking forward, we look at our programming and mission through two lenses. Does it fulfill our mission? And how, are we uniquely qualified to do this with gifts that are present in our congregation? What if we chose Family Promise and all of our efforts of fundraising and volunteering were poured into just that one ministry? What if our small groups were on how to find board members, or how to do fundraising, or how to write grants to help them get what they need? Or what if we decided that we were going to adopt Jones School and make sure that they had school supplies, that the teachers were well equipped, and we could volunteer to tutor all their kids after school? What if we had the power of 290 Christians from Portage First United Methodist Church on just one of these missions? The good is the enemy of the great. We may choose many good missions instead of making our mark with one great mission that we could be focusing on. Another possibility could be small group evangelism. What if we focused on the small groups and we focused on people that we knew were in a need of a relationship with God, and we brought them into our small group so that they could experience firsthand the community that develops? All of these are great possibilities, and no decisions have been made to get rid of any ministries, so please don't ask me if your ministry is being axed, because we aren't doing that. But I would like you to think about it. Look around at the community and think about if there's any programs that we are unnecessarily duplicating. Look at what the needs are out there and how we might be uniquely qualified to address a situation, either by our location or by the gifts of people in our congregation. Please bow with your head with me and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that our church be a place where your presence is made known, that you hear our prayers, and that those in the community that may not know you yet be answered. Help guide us in our time of listening, our time of discernment, for what you are calling us to be as a presence in Portage and Porter County. May we be a place that reaches out to those who need you most and help them to meet you and know you. May this house be a house of prayer, And we boldly pray that our prayers be heard, so that your name may be known and glorified in Portage and beyond. Amen.